Johnny always wore black, and he wore black because he identified with the poor and the
Welcome to Radio Bravery Live.
downtrodden.
God is gonna cut you down and drain that swamp right about now. Welcome to a special report entitled Shooters and Psychotropics. The truth behind lone wolf shooters. I'm your host, Justin Belshaw. We are live, youtube.com/RadioBravery. You can also find me facebook.com/RadioBravery, twitter.com/RadioBravery, and my beta site is radiobravery.wixsite.com/news. Johnny Cash bringing us in with God's Gonna Cut You Down.
Cut 'em down, tell 'em that God's gonna cut 'em down.
Got my anti-fascist, anti-communist shirt.
Well, my
Real
goodness gracious,
Antifa.
let me tell you the news. My head's been wet with the midnight dew. I've been down on bended knee.
There is a correlation between most lone wolf shootings, and you might be surprised what it is. Have you ever heard of an SSRI, a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor?
Go tell that long-tongued liar. Go and tell that midnight rider. Tell the rambler.
Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. This is from Wikipedia.com. Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, are a class of drugs that are typically used as antidepressants in a treatment of major depressive disorder or anxiety disorders. The exact mechanism of action of SSRIs is unknown. Wow, interesting. Might as well keep prescribing them, though, to hundreds of thousands of people across the country. SSRIs are believed to increase extracellular level of neurotransmitter serotonin by limiting its reabsorption into the synaptic cell, or the presynaptic cell. Increasing the level of serotonin in the synaptic cleft available to bind to the postsynaptic receptor. They are varying degrees. They have varying degrees of selectivity for the other monoamine transporters, with pure SSRIs having only weak affinity for the blah 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 dopamine transporters. But SSRIs are the most widely prescribed antidepressants in many countries. The efficacy of SSRIs in mild or moderate cases of depression has been disputed and may be outweighed by the side effects. That's from Wikipedia.com right there. So that is what a SSRI is, or a psychotropic. But we can just look up psychotropics right there on Wikipedia, so that we know, so that we have a idea, since this special report is entitled Shooters and Psychotropics. I don't even know if I can find a let's see. The word psychotropic comes from relating to or denoting drugs that affect a person's mental state. So these are drugs that selectively induce serotonin into your brain and alter the chemical aspect of your brain and just change the complete balance of your mental state. That's what these drugs do. There are thousands of stories, hundreds of thousands of stories, I'm sure, of people who don't even remember. They basically wake up sleepwalking on these types of drugs, and they don't remember anything in a lot of cases. Let's go ahead and get into our first shooting that we're going to cover. These are not in any specific order, so don't harass me about the order, please, because I don't give a shit about the order. These are just about horrible incidences and what you may not know about them. The Columbine High School Massacre. Columbine High School Massacre was a school shooting that occurred on 4/20, April 20th. That's Hitler's birthday. That's a communist holiday. 1999 at Columbine High School in Columbine, an unincorporated area of Jefferson County in the American state of Colorado. In addition to the shootings, the complex and highly planned attack involved a firebomb to divert firefighters, propane tanks converted to bombs placed in the cafeteria, 99 explosive devices and car bombs. The perpetrators, senior students Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, murdered 12 students and 1 teacher. They injured 21 additional people, and 3 more were injured while attempting to escape the school. Okay. Although their precise motives remain unclear. Now, this is from the Wikipedia when you search Columbine High School Massacre. Although their precise motives remain unclear, the personal journals of the perpetrators document that they wished their actions rivaled the Oklahoma City bombing and other deadly incidents in the United States in the 90s. So these kids looked up to the Oklahoma City bomber, the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, piece of shit. Why did these kids look up to him? Well, probably because we glorify every single terrorist attack by blasting their picture, blasting their name, blasting every detail about the murders, the deaths, everything that happened, and not in order to help, not in order to save anything, but just glorifying these piece of shit murderers. Still on the Columbine Massacre, the massacre sparked debate over gun control laws. Oh, really? Wow, shocking. High school cliques, subcultures, and bullying. It resulted in an increased emphasis on school security with zero tolerance policies and a moral panic over goth culture, gun culture, social outcasts, and even though the perpetrators were not outcasts. The use of pharmaceutical antidepressants by teenagers and internet use and violence in video games also may have played a role. Yeah, antidepressants. Oh, you didn't hear about that back then. That's the thing about the internet before and the internet now. You can't really keep this shit hidden down. So the real lesson of Columbine: psychiatric drugs induce violence. This is from Citizens Commission on Human Rights of Colorado. Filmmaker Michael Moore, who, oh man, that walrus really beached himself in America here, but he can get the hell out. He's a definitely anti-American scum. But on this 12-year anniversary of the shooting rampage at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado, let us not forget the real lesson of Columbine: psychiatric drugs induce violence. Shooter Eric Harris was taking the antidepressant Luvox at the time. He and Dylan Klebold opened fire at Columbine High School, killing 12 students and a teacher, wounding 26 others before killing themselves. At least one public report exists of Klebold also witnessed taking antidepressants, including Paxil and Zoloft, and he was being urged to come off of them. Officially, Klebold's medical records still remain sealed. Wow, that's just so happens to be what happens every time we have a lone wolf shooter. Their medical records are sealed. Why on earth would you want to seal the medical records? Maybe because it is prescribed pharmaceutical fucking drugs that are causing these shootings. Luvox, Paxil, and Zoloft are in a class of drugs called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs. Among the international regulatory agencies issuing warnings on these antidepressants, the FDA issued a public health advisory in 2004 warning that anxiety, agitation, panic attacks, insomnia, irritability, hostility, impulsivity, akathisia, which is severe restlessness, hypomania, abnormal excitement, and mania, which is psychosis characterized by exalted feelings, delusions of grandeur, or overproduction of ideas, have been reported in adult and pediatric patients being treated with these antidepressants. These are all documented. These are all on the inserts of all of these drugs, that they will do all of these things. Cause mania, impulsivity, insomnia, panic attacks, irritability, impulsivity, hostility. Really, really, it seems to me like these people are characterizing all of these symptoms. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Okay. So that is one article we've covered. Oh man, I'm not very good at this. Here we go. CNN, Columbine shooter was prescribed antidepressant. Reports surfaced Wednesday that one of the gunmen of Littleton, Colorado, Eric Harris, was rejected by the Marine Corps recruiters days before the high school massacre because he was under a doctor's care and had been prescribed antidepressant medication. Harris's prescription for Luvox, an antidepressant medication commonly used to treat patients with obsessive-compulsive disorder. It is one of a class of drugs called SSRIs. Oh, weird. SSRIs, Prozac, Paxil, Zoloft, Luvox. They're all SSRIs. They all selectively put serotonin in your brain. This is unnatural. The brain will react in extreme ways with a forced serotonin in your brain. Selectively. That means think it will just drop, and then boom, your brain will flip. You'll flip like a switch into impulsivity, anger, craziness, manic. This is insane. Now we've got one from the Huffington Post, and this is for all the people out there that I hear every single day, all day, every day. Who do you cover? Where do you read? Where do you link your sources? Well, why don't you tune into my show? I've got the Huffington Post right here. I just was at CNN.com. Columbine shooter. Psychiatric.fraud.org. That was the first one. Now we got right here. Columbine shooter was prescribed antidepressants. CNN.com. HuffingtonPost.com. Is it drugs, not guns, that cause violence? This is Huffington Post. With the media fixated on guns and violent video games, Connecticut's chief medical examiner says he's seeking genetic clues to help explain why a shooter killed 20 children and 6 adults in the Newtown elementary school shooting. 60 Minutes reported that Adam Lanza was taking prescribed medication. No way! So that is a headline we'll get back to from the Huffington Post, but let's move to this one right here from Breitbart.com. To stop mass killers, we have to stop drugging our boys. This is from Breitbart.com. As America comes to terms with a monstrous shooting in Charleston that has left 9 churchgoers dead, bewildered members of the public are seeking rationality in apparently wanton and inscrutable crimes. We may never know quite what drives some people to kill, but it seems that in young Dylan Storm Roof, we have further evidence of a trend that should worry us all. I'm talking about his dependence on prescription drugs. Suboxone, to be precise. Roof is just the latest in a long line of young men who have committed appalling crimes after a lifetime of psychotropic drugs. If you don't believe me, consider some of the most notorious young male shooters in American history. Sandy Hook shooter Adam Lanza. He was taking Lexapro and Celexa. Red-headed Aurora killer James Holmes was taking clonazepam and sertraline. Clonazepam and sertraline. That's what James Holmes was on. Virginia Tech mass murderer Seung Hao Cho was taking Prozac. Charles Whitman, the Texas Tower sniper, was taking dextradine. Columbine executioners Eric Harris, Zoloft, and Luvox. You get the idea. These young men were all on prescribed medication. Feminism helped to get them there. in particular female teachers who either dislike men or are completely ignorant of healthy behavior and norms for young boys, is creating a generation of emotionally stunted, drugged up young men. Millions of young American men are prescribed powerful drugs after being diagnosed with a phantom condition, ADHD, which didn't exist just years ago. Better known as a mixture of natural boisterousness and poor parental discipline. The mere fact of being male has become pathologized. When they get into their teens and early 20s, they graduate onto drugs like Zoloft, Prozac, drugs that can produce a powerfully dissociative effect in the mind, muddying the distinctions between reality and fantasy. All this because boys are now treated as though they are defective girls. I once clumsily wrote that video games help to shape fantasies of Isle Vista gunman Elliot Rogers. I intended not to incriminate video games in the spiral into madness and murder, but rather to point out that young men lose grip on the real world, often retreat into imaginary ones, which can have a stylistic effect, if you will, on their crimes. So that is one from Breitbart.com entitled, "To stop mass killers, we have to stop drugging our young boys." And I absolutely agree with that headline right there. Here's another one from the Denver Post. 20-year seal on Columbine depositions. Does it not make you wonder why they have to put a 20-year seal on the information of people who murdered your own friends and family in your own country? We are American citizens. Don't we deserve the right to know about this? Don't we deserve the information? Don't we deserve it not to be sealed for 20 years? Honestly. The depositions of the parents of Columbine killers Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold will be kept under seal in the National Archives for 20 years! 20 years! No one, including violence prevention experts, will be able to seal them or see them until they are unsealed. So there you go. They do not want you to know this information. They do not want you to make a correlation between psychotropics and shooters. Shooters and psychotropics. Shooters and psychotropics. They go hand in hand. I'm sorry that I'm so angry about this, but I'm so fucking sick and tired of everybody blaming everything else on all these shootings that keep happening, and every single fucking time they're on psychotropic drugs. Psychotropic drugs, shooter psychotropics, shooter psychotropics. How many times do we have to fucking go over this? Really? I don't understand. I don't understand why people are so ignorant. They're so unwilling to look at the facts right in front of you. The Virginia Tech shooting. Virginia Tech shooting. Let's look at this. This is the Wikipedia. I will start every time at the Wikipedia so you can see the mainstream blanket and how even in the mainstream media they still tell you a little something of it. The Virginia Tech shooting, also known as the Virginia Tech Massacre, occurred on April 16th, also 4 days before the Columbine shooting. They all seem to happen right around April 20th or so. On the campus of Virginia Tech State University in Blacksburg, Virginia, United States. Seung Hyo Chow, a senior at Virginia Tech, shot and killed 32 people and wounded 17 others in 2 separate attacks. Another 6 people were injured, escaping from classroom windows approximately 2 hours apart before committing suicide. The attacks received international media coverage and drew widespread criticism of U.S. gun culture. At the time, it was the deadliest shooting carried out by a single gunman in U.S. history. It sparked intense debate about gun violence, gun laws, and gaps in the U.S. system for treating mental health issues. The perpetrator's state of mind, the responsibility of college administrations, privacy laws, journalism ethics, and other issues. Television news organizations that aired portions of the killer's multimedia manifesto were criticized by victims' families, Virginia law enforcement official, and the American Psychiatric Association. Yeah, maybe you shouldn't be fucking putting out the manifesto all over in air for all the people to glorify it, you fucking morons. Cho had been previously diagnosed with a severe anxiety disorder. What? During much of his middle school and high school years, he received therapy and special education support. After graduating from high school, Cho enrolled at Virginia Tech. Because of federal privacy laws, Virginia Tech was unaware of Cho's previous diagnosis or the accommodations he had been granted at school. In 2005, Cho was accused of stalking two female students. Huh, weird. After an investigation, a Virginia special justice declared Cho mentally ill and ordered him to attend treatment. However, he was not institutionalized and was allowed to purchase guns. The shooting prompted the state of Virginia to close legal loopholes that had previously allowed individuals adjudicated as mentally unsound to purchase handguns without detection of the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. It also led the passage of the only major federal gun control measure in the U.S. since 1994. The law strengthening the NICS was signed by President George Bush on January 5th, 2008. Okay, it doesn't look like they have too much information in the Wikipedia here on the drugs that he's on, but luckily here at Radio Bravery we do our own research and we think for ourselves. So let's go to ABC News, because I actually do link to mainstream media every single show. I link to CNN, ABC, MSNBC, Huffington Post, New York Times, Washington Compost, all of it. Because just because they produce fake news doesn't mean they don't have to produce real news too. You can't get away with only being fake news, so I gotta give them credit when they have real news. ABC News, Virginia Tech shooter Seung-Hui Cho's mental health records released. Goes on to say, this guy's been having problems for a long time. Let's see. Yeah, that one doesn't say much. They did release his records were initially found to be missing in the 2007 investigation. Oh, but then they found them in 2009, and it didn't seem like they were all there, but they released them. But yeah, there's definitely some missing, and they were missing for 2 years. But no big deal. No big deal there. Don't worry about that, you guys. Here's one from WorldNet Daily. This is a real question right here. Are meds to blame for Cho's rampage? Experts say psychiatric drugs linked to long list of school shooting sprees. Oh, Cho Seung-Hui's murderous rampage, during which he killed 32 students, is prompting research into gun laws, blah, 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 of course. Investigators also may want to check his medicine cabinet, because psychiatric drugs have been linked to hundreds of violent episodes, including most of the school shootings in the last decades. The New York Times has reported the killer was on a prescription medication, and authorities have said he was confined briefly several years ago for a mental episode. Oh, really? They have also confirmed that the prescription drugs found among his effects related to the treatment of his psychological problems. Dr. Peter Breggin, a prominent critic of psychiatric drugs and the founder of the International Center for Study of Psychiatry and Psychology, said even if Cho wasn't taking psychiatric drugs the day of the shooting, he might have been tipped over into violent madness weeks or months earlier by a drug like Prozac, Paxil, or Zoloft. See, you understand, these drugs, you don't even need to take them today. They alter your brain chemicals, sometimes permanently, but at least for a while, your brain chemicals are working in a certain way for a reason. They have a balance that makes your body run, that makes your brain work a certain way, okay? And when you start altering that, it doesn't just go back to normal right away, okay? It is not an easy thing for it to just go back, you know, oh, you know, I've been altering my fucking brain, like, but yeah, that is, another one from New York Times right there reported that Cho was on prescription drugs related to his psychological problems, but we, I don't think that we've been able to verify what the drug was. I'm not sure. We might get to it here, but here's the New York Times. Virginia Tech criticized for actions in shooting. You can look up that headline. That's the one that goes over the reports of his medicine cabinet having psychiatric drugs in it. Then we have this one, UPI.com. Virginia Tech to keep shooting records sealed. That, like I said, happens every time. I don't understand why we don't get to know the real information, but let's see. Then we have the Roanoke Times. Cho records surface raise many questions. Guess who was involved in the sealing of these records was Governor Tim Kaine, who was running with Hillary. Just okay, look. Wow, that's incredible. So this is Dr. Robert Miller from the Associated Press talking about the Virginia Tech shooter, and this is what he says here. State police served a search warrant on the university shortly after the shooting, seeking treatment records of Cho, who had a history of behavioral problems, but the counseling center staff could not find those records. Tech officials now believe the records were removed more than a year before the shootings, when Miller transferred from the counseling center, according to the memo from Mary Beth Nash, a university's legal counsel. Miller was transferred to a counseling position in the Human Resources Department in December 2005. Citing personnel matters, he declined to say why Miller was transferred. The disappearance has been a source of consternation for victims' families and the state panel that investigated the shootings. State and university officials are seeking consent from Cho's family and the administrator of his estate to make the records public, but Tim Kaine also noted the information could be obtained by subpoena. Kaine said he intends to have the information added to public archive of records related to the shooting. But that is just, they believe the records were taken away from Virginia Tech of Cho a year before the shooting. You don't think, do you ever consider that they might be opening the door and rolling out the red carpet for these people? Because it really, really seems to look like it sometimes. It really does. Virginia Tech's statement on the release of Cho mental health records. You can look up that at vtnews.vt.edu. That's a Virginia Tech website. Then the last article here on the Virginia Tech section is from theguardian.com. Portrait of a killer Virginia Tech gunman was a loner with mental health problems who shunned treatment. That is just another staple. I don't know. I hope you guys are getting a correlation. I hope you're seeing a connection, because this is very important to understand that all of these shooters have a connection. Here we go. CNN.com. CNN.com. Remember that. Justin linking CNN.com. Psychiatrist. Holmes, this is James Holmes, the Aurora shooter in Colorado. Why do these always happen in Colorado, too? It's so weird. Holmes thought 3 to 4 times a day about killing. Huh. That's a psychiatrist who treated James Holmes, described him Tuesday as an anxious, antisocial oddball who thought obsessively about killing people in the months before he opened fire in a crowded movie theater in the Denver suburbs. Dr. Lynn Fenton testified before a packed courtroom that Holmes told her in March 2012 that he had homicidal thoughts. Isn't it your legal obligation to tell law enforcement? I mean, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I thought that's the way it worked. I thought that's the way it fucking worked. If you are having homicidal thoughts and have an obsession with killing people, why did this lady not tell the police? Why? Oh, that's CNN right there. That's a psychiatrist saying that he thought 3 to 4 times a week about killing. But she didn't tell the cops about it. No biggie. He's not going to do it. Here's John Rappaport's blog. James Holmes, and you can find his website at nomorefakenews.com. James Holmes and how the CIA hid their MK Ultra mind control program. This is from John Rappaport, nomorefakenews.com. Back in the early 1990s, John Rappaport interviewed John Marks, author of Search for the Manchurian Candidate. This was the book that exposed the existence of the infamous CIA MK Ultra program. I bring up this interview now. I'm reading John Rappaport's article here. Bring up this article or interview now because James Holmes may well be on the receiving end of MK Ultra as his lawyers try to navigate an insanity plea in the Aurora massacre case. Holmes will be given truth drugs to refresh his memory. Wow. Holmes will be given truth drugs to refresh his memory about his state of mind at the time of the killings. If that sounds absurd, it is. I wrote a piece in the other day detailing how such drugs are often given to produce extreme terror in patients. In other words, the drugs don't elicit the truth. They're used as threats to force the patient or suspect to confess to whatever his torturers want him to confess to. Just like waterboarding, just like any torture, it mainly causes false confessions. Now, John Marks related the following facts to me. He had filed many Freedom of Information requests to the CIA for documents relating to their mind control program and got nothing back. Finally, as if to play a joke on him, someone at the CIA sent Marks 10 boxes of financial and accounting records. The attitude was, here, see what you can do with this. I've seen some of those records. They're very boring reading. But Marks went through them, and lo and behold, he found he could piece together MK Ultra projects based on the funding data. Eventually, he assembled enough information to begin naming names. He conducted interviews. The shape of MK Ultra swam into view, and so he wrote his book, Search for the Manchurian Candidate. He told me that 3 important books had been written about MK Ultra, and they all stemmed from those 10 boxes of CIA financial records. There was his own book, Operation Mind Control, by Walter Bohart, The Mind Manipulators by Alan Shefflin and Edward Opton. Marks continued to press the CIA for more MK Ultra information. He explained to me what then happened. The CIA official told him the following. In 1962, after 10 years of mind control experiments, the whole program had been shifted over to another internal CIA department, the Office of Research and Development, ORD. The ORD had had 100 boxes of information on their MK Ultra work, and there was no way under the sun, Marks was told, that he was ever going to get his hands on any of that. It was over. It didn't matter how many FOIA requests Marks filed. He was done. The door was shut. Goodbye. The CIA went darker than it ever had before. No leaks of any kind would be permitted. In this case, is there any doubt the idea of relying on the CIA to admit it has done the mind control area, what it is doing, and what it will do should be put to bed by John Marks' statements? This is just a very interesting article. I definitely suggest going over it and reading it yourself. There's so many links in here and so much information to cover, but it's a very interesting book to check out. We are definitely taking our time on this special report. I don't even... 35 minutes in on the shooters and psychotropics. Whew. Alright, let's hit the Autobahn of information. We've got Infowars.com here. Shooter James Holmes and DARPA Weird Science. This is an Infowars.com article by Kurt Nimmo, an amazing journalist. Appearing on the Alex Jones Show, investigative journalist Wayne Madsen said accused shooter James Holmes had a number of links to U.S. government-funded research centers, including DARPA. Wow, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. James Holmes was one of 6 recipients of a National Institutes of Health Neuroscience training grant at the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus in Denver. The Anschutz Medical Campus is on the recently decommissioned site of the U.S. Army's Fitzsimmons Army Medical Center, and is named after Phyllis Anschutz, the billionaire Christian fundamentalist oil and railroad tycoon who also owns the Examiner newspaper chain and website and the neoconservative Weekly Standard. The Anschutz Medical Campus was built by a $91 million grant from the Anschutz Foundation. James Holmes also worked as a research assistant intern at the Salk Institute at the University of California at San Diego in La Jolla. The Salk Institute teamed up with DARPA, Columbia University, University of California at San Francisco, and University of Wisconsin at Madison, Wake Forest University, and the candy bar company Mars to prevent fatigue in combat troops through the enhanced use of epicatine, or I don't even know what, epicacina, a blood flow increasing and blood vessel dilating antioxidant flavanol found in cocoa and particularly dark chocolate. The DARPA program was part of the military's Peak Soldier Performance Program, which involved engineering brain-machine interfaces for battlefield use and other bionic projects. Huh. So the program that James Holmes was working with and getting funding was part of the military's Peak Soldier Performance Program, which involved engineering brain-machine interfaces for battlefield use and other bionic projects. In addition, James Holmes' father, Dr. Robert Holmes, worked for San Diego-based HNC Software, a company that worked with DARPA to develop Coretronic neural networks that enable machines to translate oral and visual stimuli and simulate human thinking. Man, you can't make this shit up, folks. You cannot make this up. Fact is always stranger than fiction. I don't know if you heard that right, but James Holmes was working in a project to for Peak Soldier Performance engineering brain-machine interfaces. His dad worked for San Diego-based HNC Software that worked with DARPA to develop Cortronic neural networks. Cortronic neural networks. You know what neural means, right? Brain. That enable machines to translate oral and visual stimuli and stimulate human thinking. Wow. The Holmes family appears to have deep connections to the military-industrial complex. Lieutenant Colonel Robert Holmes, the grandfather of James Holmes, was a graduate Turkish language graduates of the Army Language School, later the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California, the same military installation, incidentally, where alleged 9/11 hijacker Saeed Al-Mahdi trained. So that's kind of another interesting thing right there. This brain interface program military installation happens to be the same place where a 9/11 hijacker was training. The elder Holmes, Madsen notes, more than likely worked in intelligence. Typically, U.S. military officers conversant in Turkish served with either the Defense Intelligence Agency or the CIA at either the U.S. Embassy in Ankara or the Consulate General in Istanbul, or both. Basically, he ends this article in asking, was James Holmes engaged in a real-life Jason Bourne Treadstone project? Have you ever heard of Project Treadstone? That broke down and resulted in deadly consequences in Aurora, Colorado. Operation Treadstone was a fictional top-secret CIA project in which Jason Bourne, the character, underwent behavioral modification. But we all know fact is stranger than fiction, and they get those ideas from real life. So that is Infowars.com, Shooter James Holmes, and DARPA Weird Science. Always very interesting news at Infowars.com. Here's one from CBS DC. James Holmes received $26,000 grant from the Bethesda-based National Institutes of Health. Bethesda-based National Institutes of Health. James Holmes received $26,000 in grant money. James Holmes was awarded a prestigious grant from the National Institute of Health in Bethesda, Maryland. It gave the graduate student a $26,000 stipend and paid his tuition for the highly competitive neuroscience program at the University of Colorado in Denver. Holmes was one of 6 neuroscience students at the school to get the grant money. So that's very interesting. Then we've got the Daily Beast here. Colorado shooter James Holmes' family history goes back to the Mayflower. And that just goes over his history of his dad and his granddad being just deep into Black Ops, basically, before it was called Black Ops. Aurora theater shooting survivors denied access to sealed records. That is from the Denver Post. That is, once again, another underlying regulatory thing that seems to happen with every shooting here in the U.S. They seal the records, even from the victims' families. Here's CNN.com. Once again, judge orders key records sealed, others released in Colorado theater rampage. More about keeping the truth silenced. I don't know why. That's always a commonality. Then we have Aurora shooting James Holmes health records handed over. This is from theguardian.com. Let's see. Goes on to say the records have still not been made public. So don't think you'll get those anytime soon. But that's what I've got on the Aurora shootings for right now. Now let's go ahead and jump into some of the disturbing news about Sandy Hook. Newly released FBI documents reveal disturbing details about Sandy Hook shooter Adam Lanza. This is an article from October 24th of this year. Thanks to Donald Trump demanding the JFK file release, this is something that we happen to find out. The FBI on Tuesday released some 1,500 pages from its investigation into the massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary School, painting a dark portrait of the young man who carried out one of the worst school shootings in U.S. history. Adam Lanza killed his mother in their home in Newtown, Connecticut, then gunned down 20 children and 6 adult staff members at the elementary school on December 14th, 2012. Virtually all the FBI documents released in the response to the Freedom of Information Act requests are heavily redacted and strip out the names of witnesses and family members. In cases where the substance of the witness interviews are summarized in typed reports, the summaries are often accompanied by handwritten notes of the interviewing agents. Here are some of the highlights. And a lot of this is going to shock you folks, but it shouldn't. It really shouldn't. And a lot of this I already knew and I've talked about for years, and I've been laughed at. I've been called, I've had people cry to me. I've had my girlfriend cry, just bawling, upset because she says, "Oh, I don't believe Sandy Hook happened. Oh, how could I think this?" These are the facts. It makes me cry more that we are being lied to. Don't you want to know the truth? Don't you want to know the real truth about Adam Lanza? Don't you want to know why this psycho little creep killed all these children? Don't you care about the children for real? Don't you really want to know the truth? Because I do. I really do. I really want to help these children. I really want to help their families. No. I don't understand why asking questions became bad. Why don't you want to know the truth? The weirdest person online. The FBI interviewed a person who regularly communicated with the shooter online. Over the course of 9 pages, the interview revealed Lanza's obsession with mass murder and the 1999 Columbine high school shootings that left 12 dead. He was 9 pages. He was obsessed with killing. He was obsessed with Columbine. 2 years before the Sandy Hook attack, the witness connected with Lanza through postings on a website examining the Columbine incident. Lanza, the witness told investigators, was working on a spreadsheet and documenting the details of hundreds of spree killings and mass murders. Really? Really? No fucking way. It doesn't shock me at all. These people are fucking psychos, and they are bred, and the red carpet is rolled out with the pharmaceutical drugs, SSR-Lies in their brain. Oh my god. Yeah, the CIA sent me here. I don't remember anything. Fucking always happens. Come on, go. Come on, people. Wake up. Wake up. Do you really want to stop this? Do you really want to have another mass shooting next week? Do we really want to stop this from happening again? Look at the details. Shooters and psychotropics. I'm sorry. The witness described Lanza as the weirdest person online who is singularly focused on all aspects of mass murder. Lanza had a very negative worldview. Describing Lanza as deeply depressed, the witness said the shooter seemed to have no effective coping mechanisms to deal with his depression. He seemed to wallow in it and ride it out on the low periods by hiding in his room and sleeping for 12 hours or more at a time. Lanza seemed to have no friends or people he could turn to for support or assistance and did not appear to have any enjoyment in life. While they had communicated regularly for more than 2 years, who's this fucking psycho who's communicating him? I don't know what this guy's talking about, how Adam Lanza had no life. This fucking freak is making best friends with a psycho. While they had communicated regularly for more than 2 years, the witness said the contact abruptly stopped just days before the shooting. Recounting her reaction to the news that Lanza had been involved in the shooting, the witness told investigators, "Lanza was more fucked up than I thought." Who? Really? You fucking idiot. You fucking moron. You sat there and watched this guy talk about how he was obsessed with mass murder for 2 years, and all you have to say, "Oh, well, Gus is more fucked up than I thought," you stupid idiot. This person is complicit. Evidence suggests Lanza had an interest in children. Oh, no way. Psychos like to rape children? Psychos are pedophiles? Oh my god, I'm just shocked. Yeah, he was a pedophile, folks. Adam Lanza was a pedophile. Adam Lanza was a pedophile. Did you know this? You didn't. I know you didn't. On July 29, 2014, investigators released the results of behavior analysis of Adam Lanza and law enforcement and victims' family members. They found there was no evidence. They found there was evidence to suggest Lanza had an interest in children that could be categorized as pedophilia, though there was no evidence he acted on it. Investigators also found Lanza's deteriorating relationship with his mother was a significant stressor in the weeks before. It might have caused him to snap. Yeah, he was a pedophile, folks. Probably sat in his fucking mom's basement after sleeping for 12 hours out of the day, wakes up and jerks off to a little baby. That's what these psychos do while they're on SSRIs and their minds are being chemically manipulated and they get lost in this psycho world, being obsessed with children, murder, evil, guns, bad. It has nothing to do with the weapons. It has to do with the drugs in your brain altering your mind. These people are psychos to begin with, and you altered the chemicals in their brain? What the fuck do you think is gonna happen? So, that is the first article right there. I don't even know how I'm gonna get through all this. I really planned on this special report being a lot shorter, but I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit as much as I can. This is another one from CNN.com. Unsealed FBI docs paint disturbing portrait of Sandy Hook shooter Adam Lanza. Again, this is Justin reporting from CNN.com. Once again, I do link to CNN, like, I think 6 times a show so far. That's my average now. This is the one. Here's another one. CCHR International, the mental health watchdog, was Connecticut shooter Adam Lanza on psychiatric drugs. Medical examiner snubs official request for toxology report. Why would you do that? You snub a request, you can't. Why? Why? Just listen to this right here. Sheila Matthews, co-founder of Able Child, a national parents' rights organization, and Newtown resident Patricia Sabato went one-on-one with local residents to collect hundreds of signatures requesting the release of complete autopsy and toxicology results and medical/psychiatric records of alleged shooter Adam Lanza. To back up the need for full disclosure of Lanza's records, the petition points out certain undisputed facts, such as at least 31 school shootings and or school-related acts of violence have been committed by those on or withdrawing from psychiatric drugs, resulting in 162 wounded and 72 killed. Listen to that stat. Listen to that statistic. The petition further points out that 22 international drug regulatory warnings have been issued on psychiatric drugs causing violent behavior, including mania, psychosis, and homicidal ideation. Additionally, between 2004 and 2011, there were nearly 13,000 reports of the FDI's MedWatch system of psychiatric drugs causing violent side effects, including homicide, mania, and aggressive behavior. 13,000 reports! 13,000 reports! I'm sorry. Over 7 years, 2004 to 2011, 13,000 reports of violent side effects from psychiatric drugs. 13,000. 22 international drug regulatory warnings. 31 school shootings have been committed by those withdrawing or on psychiatric drugs. 31. Let's just go over this as fast as I can. School-related acts of violence by those on or withdrawing from psychiatric drugs. St. Louis, Missouri, January 15, 2013. I'm just going to give the dates. There's 31 of these. I'm just going to give the dates, okay? And then you, please, do your own research. Don't make me do it all for you. Think for yourself. Trust your gut. Trust yourself. Do your own research. Don't trust me. Listen to these dates. 31 acts of violence. These are school-related acts of violence by those on or withdrawing from psychiatric drugs. St. Louis, Missouri, January 15, 2013. Snohomish County, Washington, October 24th, 2011. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, September 21st, 2011. Planois, France, December 13th, 2010. Huntsville, Alabama, February 5th, 2010. Fajoki, Finland, September 23rd, 2008. Fresno, California, April 21st, 2008. DeKalb, Illinois, February 14th, 2008. Jakela, Finland, November 7th, 2007. Texas, November 7th, 2007, Robert E. Lee High School campus. Cleveland, Ohio, October 10th, 2007. Sudbury, Massachusetts, January 19th, 2007. North Vernon, Indiana, December 4th, 2006. Hillsborough, North Carolina, August 30th, 2006. Chapel Hill, North Carolina, April 2006. Red Lake, Minnesota, March 21st, 2005. Greenbush, New York, February 24th, 2004. Or February 2004, excuse me. Akita, Japan, June 8th, 2001. Wahluke, Washington, April 10th, 2001. El Cajon, California. El Cajon, California, March 22nd, 2001. Williamsport, Pennsylvania, March 7th, 2001. Red Lion, Pennsylvania, February 2nd, 2001. Oxnard, California, January 2001. Conyers, Georgia, May 20th, 1999. Columbine, Colorado, April 20th, 1999. Notice, Idaho, April 16th, 1999. Springfield, Oregon, May 21st, 1998. Blackville, South Carolina, October 12th, 1995. Chelsea, Michigan, December 17th, 1993. Houston, Texas, September 18th, 1992. And Winnetka, Illinois, May 20th, 1988. Those are 31 incidences of school-related acts of violence by those on or withdrawing from psychiatric drugs. Please do your own research. Please wake up and realize that the real cause of this is psychiatric, psychotropic drugs. Ron Paul said, quote, "Too many children are suffering from being prescribed psychotropic drugs for nothing more than children's typical rambunctious behavior." Thank you, Rand Paul. Thank you, Rand Paul, for always being a voice in the dark when no one else is there. You're such a good soul. Just a good human being. I love Rand Paul. I love that guy's soul. He's such a good man. Okay. Oh, man. I have so much more to get to. Okay. So, we've got a couple more here. Here is another one from Infowars.com. Cover-up of Adam Lanza linked to psychotropic drugs. This is from Paul Joseph Watson. According to NBC News, the books found were Look at Me, My Life with Asperger's, and Born on a Blue Day Inside the Mind of an Autistic Savant. The search warrant documents can be read here. The search warrant makes reference to medical papers but contains no information on any pills or any pharmaceutical products being found, despite the document making clear that psychiatric records and prescriptions, quote, constitute evidence pertaining to the charge of murder. In the aftermath of the Sandy Hook massacre, it was divulged that Lanza suffered from Asperger's syndrome, an autism spectrum disorder characterized by difficulties in social interaction. Although there is no cure, the symptoms of Asperger's are commonly treated with selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, psychotropic drugs that have been linked to violent outbursts. Also, every mass shooter in recent history was taking or had just come off one form of psychotropic medication, a connection that is routinely downplayed by the establishment and the media, who, in the aftermath of Newtown tragedy, blamed the Second Amendment. Indeed, the primary media taking point to emerge out of the release of the search warrant is the fact that Lanza had a National Rifle Association membership certificate. The press has remained largely mute on any inquiry whether he was taking any medication or not. Court filings in the murder case against James Holmes released in January revealed police seized 4 bottles of prescription drugs from the shooter's house shortly after the Aurora massacre. In Lanza's case, Luis Tambiscio, a family friend of the shooter and his mother, told 60 Minutes, "I know he was on medication and everything. I knew he was on medication, but that's all I know." Yep. Yes. Yeah. He was definitely on medication, folks. I don't think we need to make a guess about it. It's pretty fucking obvious. The antipsychotic prescribed to Adam Lanza has a troubled history of its own. Oh, look at that. By now, the whole country is fully embroiled in a gun control debate spurred by the grisly murder of 27 people, mostly kids at Sandy Hook Elementary. But guns might not be the only problem. This is from BusinessInsider.com, surprisingly enough. New York Magazine wrote a piece about shooter Adam Lanza's supposed Asperger's syndrome as a red herring meant to distract from the real problem, guns, of course. But inside the piece, though, they report Adam Lanza's uncle said the boy was prescribed Fanapt, a controversial antipsychotic. Oh my god! Yep. Oh, yeah. Since the publishing of this article, the New York Daily News has removed the article and the reference, and saying that the uncle of Adam Lanza, they believe he may have been an imposter, which that was proven false, but that's what they claim, yeah. Fanapt, the drug that Adam Lanza was supposedly on, was the subject of a Bloomberg report when it passed regulators after previously getting the non-approval stamp. Why wasn't it approved, you might ask? There are many reasons, some of which have to do with competing entities in a competitive market. The main cited reason for the rejection was that it caused severe heart problems in enough patients to cause a stir. Maybe more importantly, though, Fanapt is one of many drugs the FDA pumped out with an ability to exact the opposite desired effect on people. That is, including rather than inhibiting psychosis or aggressive behavior. From drugs.com, side effects of the drug Fanapt are this. Psychiatric side effects of Fanapt, which is F-A-N-A-P-T. Psychiatric side effects including restlessness, aggression, and delusion have been reported frequently. Hostility, decreased libido, paranoia, confusional state, mania, catatonia, mood swings, panic attacks, obsessive compulsive disorder, bulimia nervosa, delirium, impulse control disorder, major depression. Wow. Kind of seems like you might have fucking had all of these things going on. Maybe, it couldn't have been because of the drug. No way. In fact, Fanapt was dropped by its first provider, picked up by another, initially rejected by the FDA, then later picked up and mass-produced. The adverse side effect is said to be infrequent, but still exists. So that is Sandy Hook, folks. Okay, I am going to bust through the Orlando shooting very fast here. I'm going to fly through these articles. Let's go to this one, zerohedge.com. Orlando shooter spent last days researching antipsychotic medications. Following reports that the killer Joe Cox had been mentally ill, it has now emerged that last week's the Orlando shooter, Omar Mateen, is now being presented as mentally troubled after he allegedly talked about staying up all night to do online research into antipsychosis medication. Yeah. So, right before he died, he was looking up antipsychotics nonstop. That was his obsession. That's weird. Then we got this one. 2 lethal traits of America's deadliest mass shooters. The motive behind the mass shooting in Las Vegas Sunday night and over the past 20 years, the perpetrators nearly all been on psychotropic drugs. But yeah, that is WorldNet Daily. Here is naturalnews.com. Orlando shooter, U.S. Army Fort Hood shooter, both linked to psychiatric drugs. U.S. Army Major Nadil Malik Hassan, who shot and killed 13 people and wounded 30 others in a violent attack at the Texas Army base at Fort Hood. He reportedly opened fire at Fort Hood Army base. As an Army psychiatrist, he was allowed to prescribe powerful psychiatric drugs to both his patients and himself. Many psychiatrists self-medicate, and Hassan was extremely anxious about the possibility of being sent overseas by the Army, according to statements from family members. Although official confirmation will never be made, it seems altogether likely that Hassan was treating himself with powerful psychotropic medications. Orlando shooter confirmed on psych drugs. It's been a busy week for violent drug-induced outbursts in the USA. Orlando shooter Jason Rodriguez is now confirmed to have been on psychiatric medications when he went on a shooting spree in Orlando. In a televised interview with Fox News, the former mother-in-law of Rodriguez goes on record saying he was under medication for control of the brain. Yeah. Okay. Mind-altering medications made Rodriguez paranoid, she explained. And there's a link to that article on foxnews.com. This paranoia and acting out of violence against others is a classic side effect of SSRI drugs, typically used to treat depression. These powerful mind-altering medications have been linked to nearly every major mass shooting that has ever taken place in the United States over the last 20 years, including Columbine, Colorado Springs, Virginia Tech. I've already gone over it. Listen to my hip-hop song, SSRIs, which explains a lot more. I'm gonna play that at the end of this. Actually, I haven't even listened to that, but sounds interesting. Florida shooting suspect. Oh, okay, so that was the Florida shooting. Now let's get to the most recent, or some of the most recent. The very interesting, very curious shooting that just happened in Las Vegas by the piece of garbage Stephen Paddock. Does diazepam cause aggression? We explain the dangers of the powerful and highly addictive anti-anxiety drug prescribed to Las Vegas shooter Stephen Paddock. Wow. Called it. Just saying, guys. I bet most of you watching this probably didn't even know that he was on diazepam. But he was. Diazepam. Stephen Paddock was prescribed 50 10 milligram diazepam pills in June. It is not clear why he was prescribed them. Patients are typically advised to start with 4 milligrams and take no more than 40 in 24 hours. But he was given 10 milligram pills, only 6 milligrams higher. The revelation has sparked a debate about the drug, its side effects, and how it is prescribed. Most doctors agree it is near impossible for a pill to be the root cause of Paddock's murder spree, killing 58. However, experts warn it can trigger aggression in some rare cases. Yeah, if you call rare 31 instances, then I guess it's kind of rare, but it's getting pretty fucking popular and pretty fucking common with everybody who takes these psychotropic drugs. Studies also show the majority of anti-anxiety drugs are not prescribed by psychiatrists who could expertly monitor the effects. Stephen Paddock, another mass shooter on psychiatric meds. The mainstream media and the left are often quick to blame guns and gun manufacturers following mass shootings, but they seem to turn a blind eye to the one thing that many mass shooters have in common, including the Las Vegas gunman Stephen Paddock: the use of psychiatric drugs, psychotropic drugs, shooters, psychotropics, shooters, psychotropics. SSR-Lied shooter, SSR-I shooters. Yeah. So, according to data obtained from the Nevada Prescription Monitoring Program by the Las Vegas Review-Journal, this past summer, Paddock had been prescribed an anti-anxiety medication called diazepam, side effects of which include aggressive and psychotic behavior, hostility, confusion, decreased inhibitions, and suicidal thoughts. Wow, that is just a total shocker right there. Never saw that one coming at all. But let's go to the New York Daily News. Las Vegas shooter Stephen Paddock was prescribed anti-anxiety meds. Now I would like to play a video here. This is Las Vegas Massacre, What They're Not Telling You by Paul Joseph Watson. A really, really good interview that just goes so much over all the details and unanswered questions. Really, really, really good, really well done. So let me pull this video up for you. Las Vegas Massacre, What They're Not Telling You. This is Radio Bravery Live Special Report, Shooters and Psychotropics, the truth about SSRIs. Let's go ahead and pull this video up right now. Boom. Radio. Alright. Here we go. This is Paul Joseph Watson at Infowars.com.
Hundreds injured in the deadliest mass shooting in US history. And the left, which tells us to carry on as normal after every single Islamic terror attack, began screeching that we can't carry on as normal in this case and that new laws must be passed immediately.
Gun control now! Enough already! Grow the fuck up! The average person doesn't need a fucking machine gun! Enough already! Enough! Enough!
Yeah, the average person doesn't have a machine gun because they're already banned. Before the bodies were even cold, Hillary Clinton seized on the tragedy to push for silencers to be banned, despite the fact that a fully auto machine gun used by the killer literally melts silencers. This had nothing whatsoever to do with silencers. Put politics aside, tweeted Hillary, while she literally made it all about politics in the very same sentence. Listen, unless you've got a method of just spiriting away all the gun parts and all the guns in America in one single wish, more gun laws aren't going to stop this. Unless the fully auto was purchased before 1986, highly unlikely, it was illegal anyway. Criminals and terrorists will find weapons, whatever the law is, because they don't abide by the law. The ISIS terrorists who carried out the Paris massacre were able to obtain semi-automatic weapons despite stringent gun control laws. Terrorists are stabbing people in France on an almost weekly basis. Do we ban knives? Last time I checked, mass murder was already illegal. Was this an Islamic terror attack carried out by a Muslim convert? Senior US officials say no, but ISIS itself says its own soldier carried out the massacre. But ISIS claims responsibility for everything. No, that's not strictly true. As the Associated Press reports, ISIS is not known to have claimed any attacks to which it was not at least loosely linked. For example, the Edmonton attack yesterday when a Somali migrant struck police and pedestrians with a vehicle. ISIS didn't claim responsibility for that, despite the fact that the terrorists supported ISIS and had an ISIS flag in the vehicle. Others say ISIS is getting desperate and only claiming responsibility for the attack to compensate for huge losses on the battlefield. The shooter's family said they didn't talk to him much recently, but that he wasn't political or religious. But then again, ISIS did warn that the Las Vegas Strip was a target, and surely this can't be someone who just went postal on a whim. This was a well planned out, long distance attack that used an arsenal of weaponry and ammo. And who was the woman, described as Hispanic, that told concert goers they were about to die?
So there was a lady who pushed her way forward into the concert venue into the first row, and she started messing with another lady and told us that we were all gonna die tonight.
Do you know why she was saying that? I mean, was this after the shots were fired, or?
It was about 45 minutes before the shots were actually fired, but then she was escorted out by security.
That doesn't fit with the authorities' claim that it was a lone wolf attack. What we do know is that the shooter, 64-year-old Stephen Paddock, is white. So obviously that must mean all white people are to blame, right? Say the same people who will scream bloody murder when you talk about Islamic terrorism and accuse you of collectively demonizing all Muslims while they collectively demonize an entire race of people, despite the fact that the event, being a country music show, undoubtedly means that the vast majority of victims are white people, a fact that was celebrated by some on the far left, including this CBS exec who said she had no sympathy because most of the victims were Republicans.
It's the white supremacist patriarchy, stupid!
Yeah, because if I was a white supremacist, the first thing I'd target is that well-known non-white venue, a country music concert.
Gun control debates that don't include disarming an increasingly militarised police force are garbage.
Disarm the very people who stopped the massacre. Genius, mate. Genius.
Number of Americans killed on battlefields in all wars in history: 1,396,733. Killed by firearms in the US since 1968: 1,516,863. Let that sink in.
Number of unarmed civilians killed by governments in the 20th century alone: 262 million. Let that sink in. While Trump asked the country to unite, Vox responded with this: white American men are a bigger domestic terrorist threat than Muslim foreigners. 1. These figures don't include 9/11. 2. Try importing millions of Muslim migrants and then run the numbers again. 3. Most of the victims of this attack are white American men. Can't you at least hold off for 24 hours before exploiting this to advance your vitriolic, hateful, divisive racism? Oh, and by the way, Justin Trudeau responded to yesterday's Islamic terror attack in Edmonton by sharing a call to end white supremacy Yes, that actually happened.
If you care about innocent people getting mowed down by a lunatic and think it should be harder to get guns, call your congressperson today.
Yeah, I cared about innocent people getting mowed down by a lunatic in Nice, Berlin, Stockholm, London, and Barcelona, and you all called me a racist. Some people are claiming this is the shooter attending an anti-Trump protest in Reno back in August wearing a pussy hat. It doesn't look like him, so it's almost certainly BS. Maybe when everything shakes out, the true horror behind this massacre will be even more senseless than if the culprit were a left-wing or right-wing radical or an Islamic terrorist. God forbid, the real explanation could be something that doesn't confirm your pre-existing worldview. It could just be a wanton, bloodthirsty, mindless act of evil. And that kind of evil can't be explained away in tweets or remedied by passing laws. It's a permanent existential facet of living on planet Earth, and it will be until the bitter end. I'll leave you with this. Mike McGarry threw himself on top of his children as the shots rang out. They're 20, I'm 53. I lived a good life. Please give generously to the family members of the victims of this horror via the link in the description below.
Okay, so that was Las Vegas Massacre, What They're Not Telling You. Now I'm going to play just a couple minutes of this strange things about the Las Vegas Massacre.
This video contains no graphic images at all. And the second half will be a debunking of all the stupid conspiracies floating around about this tragedy. But first, let's discuss what's yet to be explained. Who was gunman Stephen Paddock's hotel room guest when he ordered room service for 2 people at the Mandalay Bay Hotel 4 days before the massacre? This is the receipt. There you see the number of guests, 2 separate meals, a code that means in-room dining Mandalay Bay, and table number 32135, which equates to Paddock's room number 135 on the 32nd floor. Why did this receipt show him in the hotel September 27 when authorities said he checked in September 28? Who was his guest, and was it the same woman that warned concert goers they were about to die?
So there was a lady who pushed her way forward into the concert venue into the first row, and she started messing with another lady and told us that we were all going to die tonight.
Do you know why she was saying that? I mean, was this after the shots were fired, or?
It was about 45 minutes before the shots were actually fired, but then she was escorted out by security.
Obviously, this guest needs to be tracked down because he or she could have been in on the plot. Then we have this disturbing footage, and I'm not going to play it, but before the bit I am about to play, a man is walking through the site of the massacre after the shooting ends, trying to draw attention to people who are still alive so they can get medical treatment. It's horrific, it's chilling, but it proves that many people who lay there dying were still alive. Then this happens.
No EMTs, they turn the lights off. Where are the EMTs? Why are the lights off? Turn the lights off to secure the area. The shooting's already stopped. The shooting was going on during the shooting. Now we need lights to assess victims and assign EMTs. Okay, everybody right now that's here on ground is deceased. No, they're not. I got EMTs working on the guy here. I got EMTs working on the guy here. I got an EMT, our nurse working on the guy over here. I need lights on. If you know how to do that, get these lights back on. Okay.
So whoever made the decision to turn off the lights, did that prevent dying victims from getting help? Or was it a rational decision to avoid lighting up the whole area to prevent the further targeting of these victims? And remember, the shooting was over at this point, but you can see it from both perspectives, so you be the judge. Then there's this footage of victims running in terror while one group of people just nonchalantly stands there. One of them is even vaping as the gunshots go off. The group only seems perturbed when a bullet literally almost hits them. And perhaps they were just completely wasted, but it's odd how some people behave differently to others in a crisis. We now know that gunman Stephen Paddock was prescribed diazepam, more commonly known as its brand name Valium, which is linked to aggression and violent outbursts. Although Paddock's massacre was obviously carefully planned in advance, did the drug contribute in any way to his egregious act of aggression? Authorities now acknowledge that the shooter could have been radicalized.
I want to understand the motivation that you describe, okay, to prevent any future incidents.
And, you know, that this person get radicalized unbeknownst to us, and we want to identify that source.
Which suggests they suspect there could be some kind of political or personal motive. Which brings us to the biggest thing yet to be explained, which is, of course, the motive, and if there was one. Given the nature of the event, intelligence expert Colonel Tony Schaefer was explicit in who he thought the gunman was targeting.
It's shaping up to be a very deliberate act of terror. This individual parallels in many ways by age and by predisposition of being unstable. The shooter who attacked Congressman Scalise back in June was a politically selected target. The perception was there was going to be a lot of pro-gun folks there, Trump supporters at this concert. So therefore, I believe the perception was by the shooter that this was a legitimate target of political expression. The very reason that Hodgkinson did what he did, and I believe Paddock did what he did, is because the left has now encouraged the use of violence as an extension and use of political speech.
Those sentiments were echoed by forensic psychiatrist Dr. Michael Wellner, who suggested that Paddock's motive was to deliberately target conservatives and gun owners.
So it's a stranger mass homicide, and a stranger mass homicide happens for one of two reasons. Either a person acting for a cause, or a person acting because he wants to transcend notoriety and kill as many people as possible, like a James Holmes. People who commit crimes for notoriety alone are young, and he's not. Absolutely, people who are gun enthusiasts and who are populists or nationalists in this country are dehumanized. They're demonized. The point is, his mindset is that they deserve to die.
Yes.
And so a person who adopts a cause may be otherwise law-abiding, but he feels righteously justified that the end justifies the means.
You said look at the target and work your way backwards.
That's right.
What do country music fans and country music artists represent?
It's Americana.
What was written on the note seen in Paddock's hotel room? Why did he wire $100,000 to the Philippines, and is the ISIS connection still in play? What does his girlfriend know, and why did she have 2 social security numbers? Why was she married to 2 men at the same time?
She would know everything intimately, Martha, about what he was doing. You cannot get past having a house full of guns by someone who is not in the military, has no previous record of wanting to do things with guns. All of a sudden he buys these, and we're talking about I've been told an estimate of $100,000 worth of high-end weapons.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
So it's clearly something there.
And if it was an attack on Trump supporters, that doesn't mean all Hillary Clinton voters or all leftists are to blame. Let's not stoop to their level by collectively demonizing everyone with whom we disagree. Like CNN did today by publishing this article entitled "How America Has Silently Accepted the Rage of White Men," when most of the massacre victims were white men. Next on CNN, how Europe has silently accepted the rage of Muslim men. Would they publish that? No. So why are they publishing this? Stop being racist, stop encouraging actual white supremacists, and stop inciting violence.
Thank you. So well said, Paul Joseph Watson. God, that guy is so articulate, always so spot on. I love his special reports. That was just a really good one. Last thing that we're going to cover here on this special report of shooters and psychotropics, I just would like you to check out this interview with Stephen Williford, the hero who stopped the Texas massacre, the hero who helped the people of Charleston, Texas, to continue to survive, and this guy saved lives, and this is one of the best interviews I've ever seen, and I'm just gonna put on a few minutes of it, not too long, and then we'll end this report here. But thank you so much for tuning in. Here is Steven Crowder's interview with Stephen Williford.
Able to get him. Darren, our booker, got him on the line. This is the man who pursued, and I believe I'll let him explain it, shot the shooter, the Texas shooter, who everyone has been talking about right now. I hate to say the hero of the hour because I know he's going to be humble and downplayed, but
this is the interview that no one wants you to hear. This is the interview they do not want you to know about. This is what
emotional of a time this
arming yourself in the Second Amendment is for, and this is how you can protect yourself from mass shootings.
If ever you just don't want to discuss it, or I know legally maybe can't answer a question, just feel free to say pass, and my moronic self will move on down the trail. Okay. So explain for people who don't know, what happened. We've all read, we've all heard about the Texas shooting.
The storyline's very confusing now.
The storyline is very confusing for a lot of people. As far as I understand, you were across the street, you were in the neighborhood, and you got your firearm and pursued this individual. Just explain it to the audience, for people who they've been kind of putting this together with bits and pieces from the media.
I live in a little small community of Sutherland Springs, and we number in the hundreds, definitely not in the thousands. Very small community. I on a dairy there that I was the fourth generation of. I love my community. I love the people that are there. I know most of the people that went to the church there, and most of them knew my great-grandparents, the older ones. That's how far back it goes.
Well, I know.
Anyway,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I know how much you care, and I know how emotional it must be. And if I can help you in any way, let me know here. The community knows you well. Everyone who's been interviewed has spoken so highly of you. I don't think there's anyone who has a bad word to say at all about this man. It's just then people pivot right away to politicizing the issue of gun control. So let's put that on the shelf here. What happened the day of the shooting, when this story broke? What happened? What did you hear? What went through your mind? What went down that day?
I was at home, and I was actually in my room relaxing, and I started hearing a sound, and it sounded like someone tapping on my window. I'm about a block away from the church.
Okay.
And my older daughter ran in. She was cleaning dishes in the kitchen, and she ran into my room and said, "Dad, doesn't that sound like gunfire?" And I told her, I said, "That sounds like someone tapping on the window," and it was just a rapid tapping. And I went to the window and opened the window, and I could not see anything. But I followed her into the kitchen. When I got into my kitchen, it sounded definitely more volume, and I could tell that it sounded like gunfire. I said, "Oh my God, it sounds like gunfire." I ran to my safe and opened my safe, and my daughter ran outside, got in her car, and drove around the block while I got my AR-15 out of the safe. And I ran back and I grabbed a box of ammunition, and she came in and said, "Dad, there's someone in tactical gear shooting the Baptist church." And I said, "Call your mom." My wife and my daughter that's here now and her husband were working on their house. We're building their house. And they were over at my property that's 5 miles down the road, and she called them, and I said, "Stay put, stay put. We have an active shooter situation at the Baptist church. Just stay where you are at," because I knew they were far enough out of town, they were in no danger.
Right.
I opened the box of ammunition, and I grabbed a handful because I was hearing shots one after another, rapid pace. And I just grabbed a handful, and I started loading a magazine, and I started out the door. And my other daughter, I told her, "Load me another magazine." And I knew she couldn't come give me a magazine. It was busy work. I was trying to give her something to do, keep her in the house.
That's amazing you had that forethought. I was thinking you needed, so you actually you had the time and spatial awareness to think, give her something so that she's distracted?
Yes, I've been a foreman before in construction, and sometimes you just got to give busy work to someone. Wow. to get them out of your hair. Yes.
Okay.
But my daughter she is a great girl, and she's actually I started training all my kids when they were 8 years old. They were NRA distinguished experts.
Wow. Okay. So they know their way around firearms.
Yeah, I was a instructor, but I did not want anybody else that might be a target.
Right. Wow.
So there, and I ran out of the house, and people said, "Why did you run out barefoot?" Because I didn't have shoes on.
The simple answer?
Well, my answer was every time I heard a shot, I was thinking that was assigned to someone else.
Right.
That shot was assigned to, he was shooting at another person every time I heard a shot fire, and I didn't have time to put shoes on. It's the time of the year that I'm growing my Santa beard, because I go on a motorcycle ride with the Baptist church where we deliver toys for boys and girls of low income around Wilson County. And I ride with the Baptist church that was under attack.
Wow. So you leave with no shoes on, and then what do you get into your vehicle? Do you run straight to the church?
No, I'm a block away, or less than a block away. They're catty-cornered behind me in my house. A house behind me, and they're across the street on the other side.
Okay.
And so I ran over there, and I ran across the neighbor's house that was right across from there. And as I approached the neighbor's house, I see a gray SUV sitting in the middle of the highway in park with the engine running and the driver's side door open. And it was out of place. And I was focused on that, trying to figure out that, and kind of looking back behind the vehicle. And I don't know that I had tunnel vision or what the deal was, but I saw the shooter come from around the front of the vehicle.
Okay.
And at this time, he had a handgun in his hand. And I didn't know, but my daughter said that he had an AR-15, but when I saw him, he had a handgun.
Okay.
And he had a tactical helmet on, like a SWAT team would use, with a black visor. And he had Kevlar vest, and you could tell it was a bulletproof vest. He had that on. And I'm a Christian.
Sure.
And I believe at that point, and maybe this sounds a little off, just some of your viewers that aren't Christians, I believe the Holy Spirit was on me, because I had the presence of mind to look at what was going on. And as we exchanged fire, I noticed that the side was one of those tactical vests that velcros across, meaning he has Kevlar in the front, Kevlar in the back, nothing in the side.
How far away was he at this point, for context, would you say?
20 yards.
Okay, so 20 yards, so you can see that clearly, and someone like you is trained with firearms, 20 yards is well within what you would practice with.
I had an AR-15 with an EOTech on it.
Sure.
And I trained at 20 yards. That's no real great, amazing shot. I shot between the two Kevlar plates.
Well, that is a great shot with the not to just heap praise, who I know everyone else will, but to have that frame of mind, and like you said, that foresight. I know people are going to be asking, did this come with your NRA instructor training, military background? Because most people would not think to look for this, to be aware of your surroundings. It is remarkable.
Well, that's what I'm telling you. I can't explain the clarity of mind that I had. I can't explain it. And not only that, but I was using the neighbor's Dodge pickup truck. He had a four-wheel drive Dodge pickup truck in his driveway, and I was using it. All he had for a shot for me is my head, because I was behind the truck and using it for cover.
Okay.
And we exchanged fire, and he hit the neighbor's car's windshield. He hit the neighbor's house, and he got into the vehicle, and I fired it again. And he fired two more shots through his side. Well, actually, he fired two shots through his side window first, and I noticed the two distinct pistol shots coming through the sides of the window. And I fired my AR-15 again, and it took the window down. It fell. Okay. And I took another shot. And at this point, I'm shooting where his head would be.
Right.
And he started the vehicle, and he turned down 539, which is a highway, and he took off. And I took one more shot, and what I perceived would be about his head through the back windshield, and it shattered.
Okay.
And he blasted down the road. I looked to my left, and there was another pickup truck at the stop sign that apparently witnessed the whole thing. And I ran up and I tapped on his window and I said, that guy just shot up the Baptist church and we've got to stop him. He unlocked his door and we gave pursuit.
And thank God that he did, because, you know, obviously you have to think from his point of view. He doesn't know a guy comes up with a gun and says, you know, this is a tactic that kidnappers or people who are carjackers use a lot. Hey, I need your help. And thank God you both got it right.
He did witness the exchange of gunfire.
Right.
He saw the guy shooting at me also, and he saw him run out from the Baptist church, and he saw him in black tactical gear, and me with no shoes on.
Right. Yeah. He might have at that point he might have said, okay, that's the bad guy, the guy with the black visor, not the guy with the Santa beard and the flip flops. So he lets you in. You've a few windows now have been shot through, and how far is he from you as you begin trying to close that gap?
He had a considerable lead. We did not, but he left out of there, and we shot across a major intersection at full speed. And again, I had the presence of mind. I dropped the magazine because I remember I didn't load a magazine. I just grabbed a handful and stuck them in, didn't count them.
Right.
I dropped the magazine down and I looked, and I had one round in the magazine, meaning I had one round in the chamber and one in the magazine. And I pushed it back in place. He had called 911 at this point, and he was talking to 911. And obviously the Wilson County Police Department and everybody else has got an active shooter at the Sutherland Springs Church.
Right.
And so we started talking to dispatch and telling them that we were in pursuit of him going down 539, and they said which direction. He was headed towards Seguin, north, 539. And they said, can you see him? And about that time, he came into view again. We started catching him.
Okay. So he comes into view and start catching him. What does that mean? You start closing the gap? Do you bump him?
No, we were still 3 cars behind him, but we could see him, and you could see the back windshield was knocked out, and we were making up ground. And they asked us specifically, where is he? And there was a crossroad there, the 227 or something like that. It crosses and goes back to Lavernia, and he had just passed that, and we told dispatch he just passed the road that cuts off and goes to Lavernia. And we're letting them know where he is.
Right.
And we started closing on him real fast at that point, and he veered off the road, and he almost stopped, and I reached down and I started to open the door, and I had my rifle in my hand, and I was going to stand behind the door, and then he took off again, and he hit a highway sign and folded over the top of this vehicle. He got back up on the pavement and ran up about 100 more yards, and then down into the bar ditch on the other side, and stopped.
Okay.
And at that point, I told the driver, and I didn't know his name at all. His name's Johnny. I told the driver, I said, just get down. You have nothing. Just get down, get out of the fire. Just get below the dash. And I opened the door, and I got out, and I used the truck again to lay my rifle across the hood of the truck. And I started yelling, driver, get out. And I was yelling a few rude obscenities, which is not like me.
Well, I think it's forgivable in this instance. I don't think anyone's going to be too upset about it. So you're yelling, your rifle is on there. Is he, at this point, saying anything back, or this is where he's quiet, there's nothing left coming from him?
There's no movement. There's no movement. I don't know. At this point, I didn't know what was going on in the vehicle, what was going on. If anything, I didn't know. And so I sat there And Johnny said, estimated between 5 and 7 minutes. I'm going to tell you, it seemed like an eternity.
Right.
And I've got my rifle trained on the side window of the driver's side, and just waiting for any sign of anything. And I'm yelling the whole time. And I remember one time he yelled out, "Where's the police?" And just a short time after I yelled that, I was focused on the SUV. I heard a PA system come on and said, "Driver, get out of the vehicle with your hands up." And then I heard it again. I laid my rifle over the hood of the truck, and I walked back to the back of the truck with my hands up like this. And the officer looked at me and said, "Not you." Okay, I better go back. And I walked back up, but I didn't want him to think that there was any threat with me at all.
Right.
But now that was kind of a funny moment, because I realized at that time that there's only one squad car, and I back up.
Right.
And so I went ahead and I held my rifle trained onto the car until I saw about 6 different police officers pull up, and I thought my job was done, and I put the rifle on the back of the toolbox to the pickup truck and started to walk back, and they said, "No, no, no, stay where you are, stay where you are." And they drove a car up so that I could get behind the car and be shielded as he backed up and got me away from the scene. The Wilson County Police Department should be proud of themselves.
I'm sure they are, and I'm sure they're proud of you. I wouldn't be surprised if some kind of a medal or achievement here, because, you know, listen, you did so much, and this is when people often say, well, call the police. You see in this instance, they did as good of a job as they possibly could, and in that instance, right, if you weren't there, this is one thing that I would like your perspective on. The media says, well, this didn't necessarily stop at the shooting, it already occurred, but who knows just during those 5 to 7 minutes what kind of damage he could have done if not for someone like you. As you said, that's an eternity.
I'm going to tell you, and I found out later, they said he had multiple firearms in the vehicle and lots of ammunition. And I don't know what his plan was, but my thought in looking at it is he had a tactical helmet and a Kevlar vest. He wasn't through.
Yeah.
And there was the River Oaks Baptist Church in the same direction that he left.
Right. Yeah.
I'm by no means saying that that's where he was going, but they were in the middle of Sunday morning services too.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't seem like a getaway. A guy who keeps his car running and has, you know, several more weapons and ammunition. That's not someone who's just looking to get out of Dodge. So, I mean, what are you? I mean, I don't want to Barbara Walters this, but do you have it? What are your feelings like now? Are they mixed? I mean, I know people talk about what it's like in these scenarios, and you can never imagine taking a life, but in this instance, knowing so many people in your town and saving so many people, what are you feeling like now?
I'm having all kinds of issues, and I know I probably need to talk, but I know police officers go through some sort of counseling, and I probably need to talk to a counselor, and I'm going to, because I can't put my finger on what my feelings are. I'm a little bit angry at the media. Oh, that's going to really make you happy. But
I'm just going to pause this real quick and say that this interview brings me to tears every time. When this poor guy, you can just hear his voice shaking, and you can just hear the honesty and goodness in his soul. And this guy right here is the type of person that I look up to. This is a hero to me, and I really, really love this guy, and this guy is an incredible man. I'm so proud to get to listen to this interview. So let's watch the end of this here, and then we'll play the SSR-Lied rap by Mike Adams.
My issue is I feel like a prisoner in my own home because I can't step out my door.
I know, and I appreciate you doing this interview. Feel free to cut me off at any time. I can imagine you want some time to yourself, but not all the friendly either.
This is crazy. They're coming up to my door and they're sticking cards in my door. Sheriff Joe Tackett told them if they come up into my yard again, he was going to arrest them. And when they left, they were right back.
Gosh.
And I would love to, and this is where I want the focus for this to go.
Sure.
Right here. Not me. I want the focus to go to the families of the community that I grew up in. And the people that I love there, the people that I know. The church was a very small congregation, and 27 people are dead. Children are dead. 20 or so are injured. That's decimated their congregation. There's very few left in their congregation.
Right.
The pastor of the church, Frank Pomeroy, him and his wife were in Oklahoma. Their 14-year-old daughter was killed.
I can only imagine. I mean, that's a long drive home. Is there a place people can go to support the church and its members? Obviously, a lot of people just feel helpless as to how they can help in an instance like this.
Oh, please figure it out. Again, I've been a prisoner in my own home. I have no idea. They're having a memorial at the baseball stadium, and the media is going to be there. And guess who can't be there if media is there?
Yeah. I can imagine. It's got to be tough.
I want to hug some of these people.
Yeah.
I don't even know which ones of my friends made it and didn't. I don't know. Because the media is not giving me any information, and they're keeping me from seeing any of these people.
Have the media been helpful with you at all? Have some of them been contentious? How have they been treating you? I know obviously they're being very persistent and bombastic.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, I did an interview with a young man that was on my youth shooting club when I used to do an NRA shooting club. He went on to.
I'm just going to stop the interview right there and just say that Stephen Wilford is a hero, and I am going to do my best to do whatever I can to help him out and to help the victims out in this small town, because that's what this special report is all about. It's about stopping this from happening again, and I don't want this to ever happen again. And taking away gun rights is not the answer. It never will be the answer. That's why we are one of the first and only places ever to create a Second Amendment, and it's there to never be infringed upon. For people like this to protect us and to protect each other. And we should be more like Stephen Wilford. We all should. This guy is RadioBravery. This guy is why I started this show. It's people like this guy. So, thank you so much for joining me on this special report, Shooters and Psychotropics. I'm going to lead us out with SSR-Lie's rap from Mike Adams, the Health Ranger.
Johnny's just going to school, he ain't breaking the rules, he just doing what kids do. Teacher says Johnny ain't paying attention, gonna put him on drugs, but they never mention the side effects. Making him violent and defining, his parents are buying it, and before long he's lying and trying to hang himself in his own room. Or sticking a 9 in his mouth and making it go boom. But the psychiatrist says we gotta see it through. Did you know your brain chemistry is whacked? And all of these drugs are proven scientific fact. But it's all an act, the doctor's a quack that studies jack, modern psychiatry, and smoking crack. That's a fact. Selective serotonin, reuptake inhibitors. Oh, why you wanna mess with the kid's brain and take away everything that made him a human being? Like his uncommonality and his unique personality and originality. Authority figures hate individuality. If they keep drugging the kids, it's gonna get worse. Psych drugs are a time bomb ready to burst. Take the money out your purse, give it to the nurse. The drugs seem like they're working at first, but even on the drug, life still hurts. And the more that you take, the more it gets worse. The psychiatric medication has become a curse, and then your kid comes home in the back of a hearse. Coming home from the drug-free zone. Coming home from the drug-free zone. Check this out. They take the brightest kids in the nation and put them on medication and vaccinate them, and they wonder why they can't tolerate them. So they put them on psych meds, and they end up dead. But nobody said they could use health food instead. Messing with your head, can't get out of bed, eyes are turning red, doctor got no cred. You don't have to follow what the psych doc said. You gotta take your life back and put the knife back down. If it's like that, throw the medication on the ground, cause the medical suckers are gonna psych that. And if you're speaking your mind, they're gonna strike that. It's time to learn, you gotta fight back and take your mind back from the medication trap. And if you get that, then watch your brother's back. These drugs hit you like a chemical bitch slap. Take that, psych doctors. These drug pushers should be arrested. Oh, we used to be a nation that would try to educate kids, but now we focus on ways to medicate kids. We label them as victims and addict them to toxic chemicals that trick them into thinking we somehow fixed them for life. But in reality, it's medical insanity, a chemical calamity, scientific profanity, and it's a horrible mistake that never had to be. Modern psychiatry is guilty of crimes against humanity, and that's the way that it's gonna be unless you stand up and make the change that you wanna see. A non-medicated mind is ready to be free, but that's too dangerous, don't you see? You might discover your own thoughts, your own ideas, your own philosophy, your own non-conformist views. You might read the alternative press, or you might learn about health online from natural news. You might threaten the status quo, go where nobody goes, follow a path you chose, learn what nobody knows, anger political, expose the medicals, hit those foes with low blows from head to toe. Doctors putting kids on speed, they do it for money, not medical need. They try to feed you chemical lies, and that's the truth about SSRIs.
Thank you so much for joining me once again on this very special report, Shooters and Psychotropics. I will be back very soon with more Radio Bravery. Thank you so much. I'm your host, Justin Belshaw, youtube.com/RadioBravery.